Hey everyone, welcome to your weekend mini nerve. This one, when I saw that this was about to drop, it was like everybody just drop everything. This is it. This is the mini nerve. The Obamas, okay? So Barack went into the lion's den, by which I mean he went on his wife's podcast this week, okay? He enters the lion. So this is amazing. Everything about this. And I'm so glad we're doing it on YouTube, because if you just listen to it, you wouldn't get the full effect. I mean, I watched it. I didn't just listen to it because I had to see everything. I am the product, you may be surprised or not to know, of a difficult home. My parents did not get along. So as a kid, I learned how to pick up everything because I wanted out of there the minute shit got real. So, this is interesting because Barack comes in, and the whole point of this enterprise, aside from boosting likes and subs for Michelle's failing, boring podcast, is to put to rest the rumors of marital discord, if not outright divorce or Obama having an affair with Jennifer Aniston, what have you. Now, I was watching Why I Do This to Myself. Again, I mean, I'm reporting from the front lines for you guys. I should get a flak jacket in here, for real. I was watching the fourth hour of Today with Jenna Bush Hager, who was co-hosting with Octavia Spencer, the actress. I always get her and Octavia Butler, the author, confused. I don't know why. They were talking about this podcast, Barack, Michelle, and how lovely it was to see them and see everything's great. Like everything's cool. And they're being totally earnest about this. And, and Jenna's like, what a shame it is that they have to endure public speculation about the state of their marriage. It's nobody's business. And Octavia's like, absolutely right on, sister. Like how indignant they were on behalf of the Obamas, that the rest of us, the great unwashed out here, are like, holy, do you see what we're seeing? Listen, we all see what we're seeing. Michelle is dragging Barack's virtual body through the virtual town square on the regular, okay? It's her new favorite thing to do. She's making it our business. So yeah, it is our business now, and we're going to pay attention to it. It's the only way she can get any eyes on her freaking podcast, which is why her own public enemy, number one, is a guest on said podcast. Now, watch him come in. I mean, you got to watch everything. There's nothing that, it's like we're all Sherlock Holmes. You have to watch the way he enters, the way they kiss and hug hello, the intonations in their voices, the veiled jabs, because Michelle gets them in, and I don't even think they're that veiled, okay? The body language, and watch where and how Michelle and Barack choose to sit. Here we go.
We've got a very special guest today.
Let
me stop and say very special. Someone near and dear.
This is the episode that everyone's been waiting for.
Michelle. Craig says very special. She goes, wait, hold on. Very special guest. Those are digs. That's her cutting her husband down. You're not that special, dude. Okay. You may have been elected the first Black president of the United States, not once, but twice. You're not that special, dude. Near and dear to my heart. I mean, from the jump, she's getting her licks, and she can't believe it. She's furious that he's darkened her doorstep and her podcast, which is otherwise struggling mightily for any content that feels relevant, let alone compelling. Okay. Next up.
We have my brother-in-law, husband, the former president of the United States.
He made time in his busy schedule to come on IMO. Busy. We are just so grateful. We have the former president of the United States. We are honored.
She's such an asshole. We are honored. We have the former president of the United States. He made time in his busy schedule for us. He's coming on our little podcast. Look at the way she tensed up when she was like, my man's coming. It really reminds me of Bruce Springsteen being like super tense when he was being interviewed by Michelle, whose great observation was Bruce Springsteen plays 3 hours a show. We all got that memo in 1984, honey. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? All right, Barack hasn't even like entered the set yet, and he's already the slings and arrows. Remember that? Well, you may not remember it. It was before I was born, but it's very famous. I think it's Esquire cover of Muhammad Ali, and he's got his hands behind his back, and there are arrows in his chest. It was a riff on a very famous religious icon. Again, if I'm Andy Warhol, I'm recreating that cover of Muhammad Ali, but it's Barack Obama with slings and arrows and they're all being shot by one Michelle Obama. Okay. In comes Barack. We're watching out for you, my man. Okay, here we go.
Come on out here, brother.
Welcome to IMO. Look at you.
Wait, you guys like each other?
Oh, yeah, really, huh?
That's so
the
nice,
rumor mill. It's my husband, y'all.
She took me back.
Now, don't start.
I can't.
It was touch and go for a while.
Okay. The way he kissed her on the cheek and they hugged, and it looked very icy and tense and unfamiliar and unwanted. And look at the way they are seated. Look at this photo composition. They are at opposite ends of the table. And poor brother Craig is in the middle. He's the mediator. You know, Barack sits down and you'll see this. Like he almost immediately, his arms are crossed, his legs are crossed. This is body language that says, don't get near me. Okay. I don't like you. He's twerking his body away from Michelle and towards brother Craig. And meanwhile, Michelle is sitting there so inelegantly. She's got her legs apart and her feet flat on the floor. It's kind of a masculine stance to be taking, frankly. And she's just, in my opinion, she's trying a little too hard to look a little too happy to see this guy who made her super rich and famous and with whom she would not have a podcast without. Now, brother Craig, who is really painful to listen to. And by the way, brother Craig, as far as I can tell, is the only one on that show who does the ad reads, the live ad reads, which, as anyone who listens to podcasts knows, those are more lucrative for pods than just regular ads. Michelle, my opinion, will not be lowered to reading advertisements on her own podcast. No. We're a former first lady. We're not going to lower ourselves. Brother Craig can lower himself all day long. That sucker over there, he's just her shadow. You know, it's like Meghan Markle with her failed podcast. I would listen to those ad reads and it was an actress, but they were written in the first person. They would say, I, me. Meghan Markle wasn't going to do her own ad reads either. You cannot be too good for your own podcast. Okay? You can't. What are we doing here? Are you enjoying yourself? Are you building a real relationship with your audience? Do you have something to offer them? Anything? Do your ad reads. Don't be such an asshole. Okay, now Craig begins this story with a preamble. Brother Craig is so boring. I mean, he and Michelle are both boring. They're not scintillating conversationalists. They're not sparkling with ideas and, original observations. He's like, oh, I was at the airport, I got laid over 5 hours, like the details of the layover. I mean, my eyes are glazing over. And, a woman comes up to him and now he's famous because he's on this podcast. Okay. And so this woman comes up to him and says, hey, can I get a picture? And he's like, yeah, I'll get, whatever. He's pretending like he's too cool for school, but he gives her the picture. And then he talks about how she goes in for like a side, again, like all unnecessary details weighing down the story, which like the entropy of this story is like just. Then he says this woman has a comment to him, a question she's hoping he can answer, not just for her, but the people of America. Let's listen.
What did he do?
And you knew she was going to say what
he did. And I was
it wasn't like, what happened to him?
That is so
It was
terrible.
Like, how'd he mess up?
And I said, well, what makes you think he messed up? Why couldn't it have been her?
Why did you just say no one messed up?
Okay, I love that segment because Brother Craig is implying, and we know Brother Craig rarely pushes back against Big Sis Michelle. I think is she the little sister? Who cares? She's the dominant one, okay? And he rarely pushes back lest he incur her wrath. But he said, why couldn't it have been her who messed up? He's on that podcast. He sees and hears her aggression against her own husband, like every time they tape an episode, okay? And then she says, of course, because she always corrects Brother Craig and gets him right back in line. Get back in line. And you kiss my feet. Why couldn't you just say no one messed up? Because you messed up, Michelle, because you're the one who is just constantly berating your husband and the father of your 2 children in absentia. That's why. I swear, if there was zero truth to these rumors, I don't even think Barack Obama, well, maybe he'd be on to like boost, again, subs, eyeballs, what have you. But this because this podcast has been making the rounds on like all the national entertainment shows and the morning shows, and everybody's talking about how, look, everything's cool with the Obamas. I mean, come to the nerve if you want to have real talk about fake people. We all see and hear what we all see and hear. If there was no truth to these rumors, these two would be sitting next to each other. And if they were really, let's say there was truth to the rumors, but they were really, really, really dedicated to eradicating them, they would turn it on and they would sit next to each other and they would nudge. They would like dig deep for back when they really had great affection for and attraction to each other. And they'd be touching each other and nudging each other and like giving each other knowing winks and nods, but they can't even be in close physical proximity. And this is Barack Obama, okay? A man who understands stagecraft like few other people in the modern media landscape, okay? He gets it. You do not get to become the first Black president of the United States of America. And listen, I liked a lot of Obama. I did. But the guy had like 5 minutes of legislative experience, okay? And he becomes the president of the United States, the first Black president of the United States, no less. You do not get to that level if you do not understand the media and its messaging, okay? So this is Exhibit A that, things are not well. I'm just saying, okay? Now, here we go to Michelle laying it on a bit thick about how even though she said publicly that, and I believe more than once, that she had a good decade of her marriage where she, I quote, hated Barack. Hated. She's laying it on a little thick here. Let's listen.
There hasn't been one moment in our marriage where I thought about quitting my man. And we've had some really hard times. So we have had a lot of fun times, a lot of adventures.
I don't believe her. I think that's a lie. You don't hate your husband for a good 10 years and never think about divorce. It just does not track. Now, this reminded me, this in particular, this little segment of her pod, it reminded me of one of the messiest marriages in Hollywood history and the accompanying Oscar acceptance speech, that seemed to validate the rumors that had swirled lo those many years. Now, you may be able to guess who this winner/loser is at the Oscars, but you are never going to believe. And I forgot this. I forgot this until I went to look up the acceptance speech. Who presented this award? Let's go.
Argo. Congratulations.
Michelle Obama, back in her happier days when she was first lady and the media was giving her a tongue bath, and the Academy said, Michelle, why don't you come present Best Picture at the Oscars, even though you have nothing to do with Hollywood yet? Present it. And she said, yeah, I'd love to. What's cool. I'll be like, that's when she was happy. Okay. So she presents this award. Was it Best Picture or Best Director? I forget. to Ben Affleck for Argo. Now, I love Argo. I think it is an incredibly well-made movie. And Ben Affleck does make the kind of movies that I think are far too few and, far between in the culture, which is like real entertainment for adults, for grown-ups. Argo's a great movie. And I did think he got robbed. So anyway, he wins. I think I forget which of the two, director or picture, but he made an Oscar speech for the ages. Okay, and he prefaces this because it was about it's based on a true story of Americans who were very famously taken hostage in Iran at the embassy, and that was the beginning of Nightline, because it was every night they were reporting on the status of these hostages and when were they going to come home. So anyway, he begins by thanking his friends in Iran, and we go from there. Let's watch it.
I want to thank our friends in Iran living in terrible circumstances right now. I want to thank my wife, who I don't normally associate with Iran, but I want to thank you for working on our marriage for 10 Christmases. It's good. It is work, but it's the best kind of work, and there's no one I'd rather work with.
Oh my God! I mean, first of all, he compared his wife to the tyrannical Iranian regime. And in that moment, you could see Jennifer Garner's face just crumble. And she's a professional actress, and she's really trying to keep it together. And then he goes on to say how much work their marriage is, how much work it is. And it took everything you could see for her to keep it together, while he basically tells the world he's dying to get out. And what made that really rough was because Jen Garner domesticated him after his Jennifer Lopez, J-Lo version 1. And, she made him cleaned up and respectable and helped him get to that finish line at the Oscars. And that was the thing she got. So, again, I'm a Ben Affleck fan, but life is complicated. I wouldn't want to be married to him. He's attractive, but I wouldn't want to be married to him. So, Barack can relate, he's married to a terrorist. It's a lot of work being married. Now, if you look at Michelle and Craig, they look like identical twins, so it's jarring to watch Obama with Michelle over here and brother Craig over here, and they look like twins. They have the same face. They have the same expressions, and hand gestures, and the same cadences, and the same inability to conduct a funny conversation that goes somewhere. Barack Obama, like the guy, like his politics, whatever, the guy knows how to carry on a conversation. He has got to be dying over here. Dying. All right, let's get back in there.
Yeah, I love it. I'm enjoying it.
But thank you, honey, for being on our show. Thanks for
thrilled to
making
be
the
here.
time. We got, as
You guys
Craig
are doing
said, we
good.
got a great.
I've been listening.
Of course, I've been listening.
Yeah. What? Any
Love it.
tips? Any
Observations.
observations?
Craig can tighten up a little bit. You're doing great.
Thanks, honey.
Hey,
And that's why we're married for.
Okay. So we got some breaking news, which is that Michelle Obama and Craig didn't even know if Barack had been listening to this podcast. And he's like, yeah, of course I have, which I doubt. I doubt it highly. And she asks, Barack, do you have any tips for us? And Barack knows, well, as brother Craig has learned, we do not criticize the great Michelle. So he says, Craig could tighten up a bit. And that's true. He needs to learn how to tell a story, beginning, middle, end, edit out non-relevant matter and details. But that's not going to happen because we got about 5 minutes on Craig's Airbnb experience. Which, I know Airbnb, I think, is a sponsor of their show. So they're always trying to weave it in somehow. But also what came up is that they were filming this in DC. And as we know, one of the many locales around the country that the Obamas have a mansion in is DC. And Michelle says to Craig, hey, how far away is your Airbnb? He's like, oh, I'm 2 miles from your house. She's like, oh, that's great. Not why aren't you staying with us? Why doesn't this guy have the code to the front door? Why can't he stay in a wing of their mansion? What's going on over there, Michelle? What's going on over there? So then the premise of this podcast and why Barack is here is to talk about raising healthy, strong men and boys. It's scintillating, right? But anyway, Barack tells this story I've never heard before. I did not read his memoir. I have it in case I ever need to refer to it, but I didn't read it because, I tried reading Dreams from My Father and it just was like, it was dry. It was like boring. It felt like artificial. Like it was one of the things he was going to use for his narrative to run. It was obvious. But anyway, he tells this amazing story about living in Jakarta as a young boy. And his mother, who was a white woman from America, Kansan, I believe, had married an Indonesian man. I think she was an anthropologist. And so they were living in Jakarta. And Barack tells this story of their approaches to parenting and how, he really came into the idea of parenting with a lot of structure and discipline because he didn't have it. But at the same time, there was something about his mother's free range approach. And he gives her a lot of grace. He says, she was 18 when she had me. So she was growing up as I was. And he goes on to say that she dropped him at the airport because when he would fly back to the States, he would fly on his own. He was like 8 or 9. And he goes, yeah, so she drops me at the airport and she doesn't drop, she's on her way to work and then she's got to go somewhere else, like out into the field. And she drops him at the airport entrance. She doesn't walk him to the gate. He's 8. And so he goes to the gate and he gets there and he realizes he doesn't have his passport. Now, this is a very interesting insight into his, just sort of how he's wired, and why he sort of presents as like a cool cucumber. So he goes, I didn't panic. I just sort of looked at this as like a problem solving exercise. Like, how do I get my passport and still make my flight? So he goes outside, he gets in a rickshaw. He has the guy go to his mother's office. He's worried he's not going to catch her in time. He catches her in time. He says, Mom, I need my passport. You forgot. They get the passport. He goes back to the airport and he gets on his flight. And, Michelle's horrified by this, and I would be horrified by this too, but he was like, there was no malintention there. It was just like, she was doing the best she could. And like, I was a self-sufficient kid. And I do think I got a lot from learning how to problem solve at a young age. And then she goes on to talk about the importance of when raising kids, but there's a larger meta conversation we're having here about the importance of manners and common courtesy. To her husband's face. The nerve. Am I right? Okay. So then she goes into how it is that men and boys are often taught to not express their feelings, but I don't think that's who or what she's really talking about. Let's listen to this.
How do you feel? Right. And how are boys being taught to help sort through their internal selves? I mean, it's almost like you're supposed to pretend like you don't have an internal self, an internal emotion of hurt or fear or all the things that are natural of any human.
That's Michelle talking about herself. She is still banging on about how she is not allowed to show hurt or fear or be a human being, even though she's positioned herself in the public square and she's having her midlife crisis splattered all over America. Again, like a crime scene. This whole thing is a Trojan horse for her bullshit. Anyway, then Barack Obama talks about his friendships and the lifelong, long-standing male friendships that he had before the White House and that he maintained during his time in the White House. And again, I find this a very telling characterological trait. If you maintain friendships with people who knew you before something like that, a transformation like that, that is going to change you, like your cellular composition to a degree that is just, that says a lot. And I like it. And he says, Michelle, I maintained 3 friends from way before the White House while I was in the White House. 1, a commercial fisherman in Hawaii, 1, a manager at a yogurt plant, and the other guy was an accountant. So that's his polite way of saying. Now, we end on what I would not call a hopeful note, but it's an entertaining one. Here we go.
I had a gay professor in college at a time when openly gay folks still weren't out of line. who became one of my favorite professors and was a great guy and would call me out when I started saying stuff that was ignorant. You need that.
So, okay, this reminds me of the doorstopper Barack Obama bio, which I have. I had it sent to me the minute it came out. And in it, and the author gave an amazing interview to the Tablet, I think at the time, talking about how he learned from one of Barack's former girlfriends. And by the way, Barack proposed marriage to a former girlfriend before he got to Michelle. And that girlfriend was, first of all, she was like, whoa, one day it was like, this guy is like, I'm going to be president of the United States. I'm going to be the first Black president. And she was like, that ambition scared me. So Michelle's feints that she had no idea, not buying. Secondly, Barack was basically like, listen, sister, I got to marry a Black woman if I'm going to run as a Black man. I got to be fully Black for this. And, but there was the amazing thing was, he had this gay professor and he wrote to this girlfriend at the time that he really, in his mind, he had sex with men daily. And I remember seeing somewhere that Obama had actually really debated whether he could live as a gay man because he like really kind of admired, I think, to the point of like a real crush, this gay professor. So as we sign off on this 1 hour and 20 minute Michelle and Brother Craig podcast, doubling really, and it's an attempt to quash the divorce rumors. Michelle can't help herself. She has to get one little dig in. This is it.
All right, these are men. See how they struggle with their emotions. They're
I didn't think I was struggling. I thought I was being pretty open.
I thought he was really
You
good.
did good.
And
No, you did good. There we go.
You know what?
I love you, man.
God, she is such a party pooper. She is just going to crap on everything. Barack Obama was being very open about how much he loved Craig. He went on a little disquisition about how much he loved Craig and what a great uncle Craig is to their girls. And what he used the word gift. He's like, you are a gift. Okay. That's being pretty explicitly open about the affection that he's got for his brother-in-law. And Craig basically says the same thing in a much more curt way for once, but like he's saying like, yeah, I love you too. And you're a great uncle to my kids. And Michelle's like, look at these two trying to express their emotions over here. Like, because she's been boxed out. Those two actually love each other. They do. And Craig is as afraid of Michelle as Barack is at this point. So instead of attempting to mollify his wife any further, and I believe Barack has now just painted a target on his back because this podcast, this episode of Michelle and Brother Craig's podcast, which is otherwise unlistenable, had hit 500,000 views in just one day. And that is because Barack Obama sat at that table. So he's going to pay for that. So I think, Barack, my gentle advice, you might want to call up that gay professor you can't stop thinking about. The one Michelle basically told you that you need. Go seek solace over there. That's it. That's it for your weekend mini nerve. It flew again. It flew. But, Michelle won't stop giving to the culture, so we'll be here to report on it. And we will be back also on Tuesday with a full episode. So until then, be sure to keep writing and DMing me until we are all back together again Tuesday at The Nerve, where you will never guess what we're about to say next.